Today we have a hand featuring one of my favorite poker video bloggers, Jaman Burton. He gets in there, he battles, he is grinding it up. He is playing 5-10 at Bellagio, playing something like $1,500 deep. Let's get to the action.
The table did agree to put on a $20 straddle, and that is in effect during this next hand.
Worth noting, whenever there's a straddle, it's as if the stacks got divided in half. So if normally we're playing 150 big blinds deep, now we're playing 75.
I'm the straddle here, and the player first to act limps. The hijack limps, the big blind limps, and I look down at 2 black queens. Oh, we're definitely raising this. I make it $100 to go.
So it is worth noting, when you're out of position, typically you want to make it a little bit bigger than if you are in position. In position against 2 limps, I think $100 is certainly reasonable with queens, but from out of position, in general, you just want to make it a little bit larger. Also, when people limp in medium stakes cash games, they usually have a logical limping range of hands like small pairs, suited connectors, suited aces. And you want to make sure you're cutting off those hands implied odds to the best of your ability. So I think I'd make it more like 140 or maybe even 160 in this situation, fully expecting all of those hands I just listed to still call. And that's just going to result in the stack to pot ratio being a little bit shallower, which hurts their implied odds a ton. When you do make it 100, I would expect to get called by at least one player and probably more like 2 or 3, assuming they're limping with reasonable hands, which is not really what you want when you're out of position, especially if you could have made it just a little bit bigger and gotten more money in the pot.
The original limper now calls, and while action is on the hijack, the big blind folds out of turn. This out of turn folding was an epidemic this session. The hijack finds the fold, and although we took a circuitous route, we wind up heads up on the flop. Deuce 4-6 with 2 spades. We lead for $70, and the under the gun player goes into the tank for 15 seconds before deciding to raise to $270.
All right. This 135 is definitely not correct. Currently, the pot is $240. So this is a spot where I think you want to be betting frequently using a smaller medium size on the 6-4-2 board. We have the best hand the vast majority of the time, although we could be beat by sets. I think this is a scenario, though, where you just want to bet with the majority of your range because your opponent's going to have a whole lot of random, unpaired, suited, connected type hands. And they're also going to have some pairs that will not fold. I think I probably would have sized it up a little bit in this situation, even though I fully realize the default play is to bet rather small. I think I probably would have gone more like 120 or 130, just because I think most players in this type of game are not really going to care if you bet 70 versus 120. They're going to continue with the exact same range. And that's good because you just get more money in the pot with a hand that is likely good. Anyway, we go 70. Opponent goes 270. Ugh. Let's hear what Jaman has to say.
Excuse me? What is this? No one who limps with aces or kings doesn't re-raise preflop. This sizing is either a flop set that's scared of a flush draw, or it's a draw itself. I'm banking on the latter.
All right, so let's think about this. When the opponent does raise, what should they have? Well, if they do actually have a set, I don't think they want to raise all that often in this spot because they're not all that vulnerable to being outdrawn, because if you think about Jaman's range, it does not interact with this board much at all. So yeah, you don't get a bunch of money in right now against aces, kings, queens, jacks, etc. But you keep Jaman in with all the unpaired overcards, which are going to hit sometimes and then be drawing dead. So I think this is probably a spot where sets don't want to raise all the time. I think you're going to be looking more at something like overpairs, like 9s, 8s, 7s a lot of the time. Maybe a hand like ace-6 or 6-5. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then flush draws, like Jaman mentioned as well. If your opponent does have something like 6-4, they'll probably raise that too, but obviously there aren't that many combinations of that. So given that range, I don't really see how we can fold unless we know our opponent's just super duper straightforward and they only have the nuts. This is a great spot just to call and proceed as Jaman does. You know, I want to know, in your games, when you're playing, when you continuation bet the flop in a 3-bet pot and the opponent raises on a board like this, do you think they usually err towards having sets or super nuts, or do you think they err towards having draws? Take a second, pause the video, and write what you think in the comment section below. I would appreciate it. While you're down there, click the like and subscribe button if you're having fun.
I call.
Jaman calls, all right.
The turn 3 of diamonds isn't exactly a blank, as it does fill in ace-5 suited combinations. After being raised on the flop, however, I check, and now the under the gun player just moves in for $710.
My read when this happens is typically The opponent wants to look as strong as they possibly can. If they want to look as strong as they possibly can, I think that means they're bluffing a large chunk of the time. And when they're bluffing in this scenario, realize they're going to have a lot of equity with flush draws, obviously. I don't think a lot of people just like snap rip it in if they have a 5. They may snap rip it in with a set, but you know what you're going to do.
I really don't take too long with this one. I'm near the top of my range, and his line feels insanely draw heavy.
I love it.
Especially this shove.
I completely agree. Good call. I say good call. Watch him show up with a 5 now.
I call. He puts up one finger to tell the dealer he only wants to run it once.
Once is fine.
The deuce pairs on the river, and he says, I have a 6.
I got a 6.
As he exposes 7-6 of spades. I table RuPaul and Little Richard and drag my largest pot of the night.
Nice. 7-6 of spades is a hand that certainly does make sense to put in a check raise. It might actually be too good to check raise because it's almost always good if you don't get it all in by the river. When you do get it all in by the river, the 6 is almost never good though, right? So this is a hand that I think you may want to be a little bit more inclined to not play so aggressively. I would much rather play aggressively on the flop with a hand like King 3 of spades or King 5 of spades, a hand that is almost never good at the river, but can improve to a very, very premium hand. So anyway, 7-6 of spades, loads it in. Jaman makes the good call queens, and he scoop-a-loops a very, very nice pot. That's gonna be it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out Jaman's video blog. He does amazing work there. I love it. It's a lot of fun. And whenever you get queens, and there's a lot of draws available, and there's overcard, and your opponent's aggressive, don't fold. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to all of you next time.